Welcome to Pure Harvest Mushroom Co. Today we're walking you through the step-by-step process of how we make our mushroom substrate, sterilize it, and inoculate it for optimal mushroom growth. This recipe is specifically designed for wood-loving mushrooms such as lion's mane, shiitake, reishi, and oyster mushrooms. It's important to research what kind of substrate your desired mushrooms grow best in to ensure optimal results. Without further ado, let's prepare our substrate. These measurements are originally based on 10-pound blocks. I scaled them down about 25% in order to fit my bags a little bit better. They were a little too tight. I will have both measurements here and in the description as well. So I started with 7.5 cups of wood pellets, and then I added 2.1 liters of water. Once the wood pellets start to soak up the water, you'll see that they expand quite a bit. This is normal, and they should soak up the majority of the water. Then I added 1.875 cups of wheat bran. Then I added 0.1875 cups of calcium sulfate, which is also known as gypsum. You can find this at your local hardware store. I picked up like a 5-pound bag on Amazon. Once you have all these ingredients together in a mixing container, I used a 5-gallon painter's bucket. You can use whatever you have, just make sure it fits everything. You're gonna wanna mix thoroughly to achieve an even consistency. The goal is to reach field capacity, where the substrate is moist, but it's not waterlogged, so you should be able to squeeze a handful of it and maybe 1 or 2 drops come out, if any. Once your substrate is well mixed and at field capacity, we're gonna go ahead and transfer it into a bag. The ones we use here are 8x5 by 20 with a 0.2 micron filter patch. You can pick these up on Amazon for real cheap. I'll have the links in the description. And then fold the bag securely to prepare for sterilization, making sure that the filter patch it's folded over towards the filter patch so that when we put these in the pressure cooker for sterilization, they don't get water in the filter patch. For sterilization, we use a Presto 23-quart pressure cooker. To ensure the bags aren't sitting in water, add some nuts and bolts to the bottom tray. I picked some up at my local hardware store for a few dollars. Then you're gonna wanna fill the cooker to the minimum fill line. This is just to ensure that your pressure cooker doesn't run dry and cause issues. I've had issues in the past using some really high burners where my pressure cooker warped, and this could potentially cause the pressure cooker to explode. So we wanna make sure that we do fill up to the minimum fill line. It's usually just below our tray, which works well, keeps our substrate out of the water. Then you want to check that there are no obstructions in your lid vents. I usually check by just holding it up to the light, making sure I can see through the vents, and that's usually all it takes. And then you're going to want to place your bags in the pressure cooker. Notice I've placed them upside down with the flaps facing upwards. This is just so that no water gets into the bags and that they get a tight seal. I'm usually able to fit 2 bags at a time in the pressure cooker. If you made them smaller, you could probably fit 3 or 4. Then you're gonna wanna turn the burner to high until you get a steady stream of steam from the valve. And then once the steam is coming out of the valve steadily, you're gonna wanna place the weight on top of the valve. You'll let it get to 15 psi on the pressure gauge, and once at 15 psi, the weight will be shaken back and forth. Turn the burner down as much as possible without losing pressure, so the weight moves more gently. For my burner, it is level 4, but it may take some close experimentation depending on your burner, but once you've done that, set your timer for 2 hours. Once the 2 hours are up, turn off the burner and allow the pressure cooker to cool and depressurize on its own. Don't touch it until all the pressure is gone. Once cool, carefully remove the bags, and they should be almost vacuum sealed. Place them in front of a flow hood or in a still air box for inoculation. I do not have a flow hood, so I will be using a still air box. If you can afford a flow hood, I would definitely recommend that over the still air box, but we're just getting started here. So right now the still air box seems to be doing all right, and I've had a very significantly low rate of contamination using this method. And now we're gonna wanna move on to inoculation. We'll be using a still air box for this process, like I said, but if you have a flow hood, it's the same, just in front of your hood. So first, put on some gloves. You don't want any dirt or bacteria from your hands getting into your freshly sterilized substrate. And then spray everything down with 70% isopropyl alcohol and wipe it down with a clean paper towel. This includes your tools, the air box, and the outside of substrate bags. I'm using clean razor blades here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and spray them down with isopropyl. But if you're using a blade that has been used or has been opened, it's recommended to heat sterilize that blade outside of the still air box. Isopropyl alcohol is flammable, and you don't want those 2 things to combust inside of your still air box. That would not be good. Once you're all sterilized and you've got your still air box sealed, you're going to want to cut open a colonized grain bag. Our colonized grain spawn is lion's mane, Hericium erinaceus. I usually use about 1/2 pound of grain spawn per substrate block. And we're using 2-pound spawn bags. With a 2-pound bag, that means you're going to use 1/4 of a bag per substrate block. I'll have another video shortly on how we make our spawn bags here. Once you've inoculated your substrate, you're going to want to shake up the bag a little bit and then seal it with an impulse sealer. This ensures that the substrate stays sterile and the mycelium cannot colonize the substrate with competition. So it's very important that we make sure that any competing bacteria or any competing fungus is not getting into our bags. And there you have it. Your substrate is now prepared, sterilized, and inoculated, ready to grow healthy, robust mushrooms. The colonized substrate will roughly take 2 to 5 weeks to fully colonize, and after this period, we'll put them into fruiting conditions. I'll have a follow-up video showing that. For more detailed information on the supplies used and where to get them, check the links in the description. Thank you for watching, and happy growing from all of us at Pure Harvest Mushroom Co. So in the next few weeks, we are going to be adding our lion's mane dual extract to our product selection on Amazon. So if you do have any interest in purchasing our brain boosting supplement, I will link that in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more mushroom growing tips. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and more.